In a federal courtroom in Chicago, Illinois, Thomas H. Gruder was convicted of income tax evasion on 3 counts. Pleading for leniency from the court, Gruder asked for 10 days in which to raise approximately $53,000 in back taxes and penalties which he owed to the government. His request was granted. In connection with this case, I think it might be helpful to explain that people who have been convicted of income tax evasion sometimes receive a more lenient sentence if they demonstrate their desire to make amends by paying in full their obligations to the government. And now, in my role as Chief of the Intelligence Division, Internal Revenue Service, I'm going to tell you about a case which began with one man's attempt to pay his tax obligations and ended with another man's attempt to avoid them. This is Treasury File 6493, Internal Revenue Service. The case of the gentleman cheat. $53,000 is quite a sum to raise in 10 days, Collins, even for a man like Gruder. If he was still running his bookmaking parlors, or had a lot of real estate or stocks and bonds left over from his balmy days, it would be different. But according to his own statement at the trial, he had absolutely nothing left. So there appears to be some question as to how he can raise the money.
Looks like his only way out is to borrow from friends.
What sort of friends? Who'd lend Gruder $53,000 without any kind of collateral, especially the people who know his record?
Oh, I see what you're getting at. If he raises that kind of money, he's going to have to do it on assets or property he's kept hidden from the government. Possibly on money he's earned but hasn't paid a tax on.
Exactly. And if he does have that property, which one of his friends has $53,000 to pay him for it? I'd like to get a line on who that friend is and take a look at his tax records.
All right, Chief, I'll call Chicago right away and put a tail on Gruder from now until the time he reports back to the court for sentence. And if he does raise that $53,000, we'll find out where he got it.
The surveillance of Thomas Gruder led to Chicago Municipal Airport, then to Fort Worth, Texas. Where Gruder registered at an auto court and kept to his room for the better part of the next 3 days. On the 4th day, he received a visitor who was later identified as a clerk in a Fort Worth realty company. And the next morning, Gruder returned to Chicago, went directly to the district office of the Internal Revenue Service, and paid the director $53,000 in cash.
Hi, Midge.
Morning, Mr. Pollard. Enjoy your trip to Fort Worth?
Sure. The boss in?
Uh-huh. He was just asking about you.
Hello, Al.
Marty, didn't anybody ever teach you to knock before coming into a room?
What for? Midge said you were just asking for me.
I know, but it don't look right for you to come barging right in on the president of a big organization. It's cheap.
Why?
Oh, never mind. How'd you make out, Fort Worth?
Perfect. Went off like clockwork. The latest addition to the Baldwin Empire.
Nice work, kid. I always wanted to own a garage. How many cars are there in there?
Oh, about 12.
Is that all?
Are you kidding? That place would have folded long ago if all they did was handle cars. They got a nice numbers game going on there. Nets about $600 or $700 a week.
Numbers game. I might have known Gruder wouldn't own anything that was on the level. I wanted a real garage.
What for?
Because I'm all washed up with that other kind of stuff. I got a laundry here in Tampa, a couple of motels on Route 9, a box factory here in town. Now I wanted a real garage. Are you listening to me?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Look, Marty, how many times have I got to tell you, my kid sister ain't for you?
Why not, Al? Why do you keep pushing her on to all these country club punks, these college boys? You close the door right in my face. What's the matter with me?
There's nothing wrong with you, kid. You're a nice guy. And for anybody else in the world, I'd say you were fine. For my kid sister,
Don't you have anything to say about that? If you'd give me half a chance with...
Look, Marty, why do you think I gave up all that rough stuff and started doing legitimate? For 6 years now, I've been on the up and up. And for one good reason. I don't want her to be like me. That kid's gonna be different. She's gonna be nice. Know nice people. Maybe even go to finishing school and learn something.
What's she gonna learn?
I don't know. Whatever you learn in finishing school. Marty, it's my kid's sister. Think I want her to be a crook like me?
Al, I'm nuts about her. Does she feel the same way about me?
Now look, you! Marty, don't go against me in this. We get along too good. If I ask you to lay off, because it's important to me.
But, Al...
Real important.
Okay, Al. I'll see you later.
Marty.
Hi. How are you?
I'm fine, honey. Well, aren't you going to tell me about the trip? You didn't even call me while you were away.
Well, I was kind of busy.
When am I going to see you, Marty? Tonight?
Yeah. Same place, baby, huh? By 9 o'clock? Don't worry, honey. It won't be like this for long. I'll figure out some way to handle Al.
But is there a way? If we can't even tell him we're in love, how are we ever going to tell him we want to get married?
We'll tell him. When the time's right, we'll go right up to him and lay it on the line.
I don't know, Marty. You can't tell my brother anything. Once he gets an idea, that's it. And this is one he's had for a long time.
You mean about you going to finishing school? Living with the 400?
More or less. Ever since I can remember, I've always been his pet. The rest of the family didn't matter, just me. I was always the little princess. Little lady that was going to be so much better than anybody else. The only thing is, he's forgotten that we were both born on the same side of the tracks.
Look, honey, the whole world don't run on what your brother wants. He's a great guy. I'm for him 100%. But he can't tell me who to pick out for a wife. I've got something to say about that.
Marty, don't fight with Al. You're the only two people in the whole world that I love.
I don't want to fight with Al. I just want you. What do you want, Jerry?
You ought to know the answer to that. You know I love you.
Then what are we waiting for? Why don't we just get a license and get married?
Tonight?
Why not? Right this minute. All we have to do is drive 50 or 60 miles out of state. We can find it.
Hello, Marty. No, don't get up, Marty. Stay right where you are. My sister and I are just leaving. Come on, kid.
Oh, wait a minute.
Not here, honey. Let's not argue here. We'll talk it all out on the way home. You've got a bad memory, Marty. I told you something this afternoon I didn't expect you to forget.
Look, Al, we got to straighten this out once and for all. We want to get married. We don't want to keep seeing each other on the sly like this. We don't want to do nothing behind your back. We want you to know how we feel. We want your okay on it, Al.
Come on, kid. Come on.
Wait a second, Al. You got to listen to me.
Do I?
In an effort to locate the source from which Thomas Gruder had so quickly and mysteriously obtained $53,000 in cash, Agent Collins flew to Fort Worth to work with field agents there on the investigation. They began by checking local banks and stockbrokers for accounts which might have been maintained under another name. Collins went to the office of the Register of Deeds to examine all real estate transactions recorded during the 4 days Gruder was in Fort Worth. One transaction, the sale of a garage on the third day of Gruder's visit, attracted his attention for two reasons. It listed the real estate clerk who had called on Gruder at the motel as the head of a company which sold the garage. And it listed the purchaser as another company apparently headed by another dummy officer, a Mr. Martin Pollard of Miami. Hello. Oh, yes, Collins. Yes, I got your wire this morning. And we've been doing some checking on this Martin Pollard. Yes. Well, if he's the man who raised the $53,000 for Gruder, I think we better investigate him. No, we don't have too much information on him. But according to his tax returns for the past 4 years, his only income was his salary of $150 a week.
Pollard? Yes, I have a Martin Pollard working for me here. He's my chief accountant and assistant treasurer. Why?
Oh, just a routine check on income tax returns. How long has Mr. Pollard worked for you?
4 or 5 years.
And his salary is approximately $150 a week.
Well, that's about right. What's wrong? Didn't he pay his taxes?
Oh, just checking our records, Mr. Baldwin. Tell me, has Mr. Pollard any additional income from this company or from any other source that you might know of?
I don't think so.
To your knowledge, is he in any position to make rather large financial investments?
Look, Mr. Collins, you're going to have to tell me what this is all about.
But I have told you, Mr. Baldwin. Just checking our records. Has Mr. Pollard recently made any trips for you or for this company?
Trip where?
Well, that's what I'm asking you, Mr. Baldwin. Has he recently been away on business?
Company business? No.
All right, Mr. Baldwin. Thanks very much.
I know how you feel about Marty, honey. He's a good-looking kid. He's got a good head on his shoulders. And as far as I'm concerned, he's an all-around right guy. But not for you.
But why, Al? What's so different about me?
You got class, kid. You've always had it. From the time you were 2 years old. You used to sit in an old broken-down carriage outside of a junkyard, and everybody who'd pass by would stop and say what a little lady you were.
Don't you want that little lady to be happy, Al?
With a guy like Marty, it wouldn't work, kid. In 6 months, you'd be tearing each other's hair out. You'd be after him all the time to learn how to eat right, to stop flirting with hat-check girls, to read a book once in a while.
Did it ever occur to you that I might not want him to read a book? That's what you want for me, Al, not what I want.
But he's not right for you, kid. Why, he's been mixed up in every kind of petty, chiseling racket there is. Floating crap games, numbers, bunco dodgers. You think I want you tied up with a guy like that? Well, he's done time, Jerry. 2 years in a state penitentiary.
And what have you done? Just because they've never caught you, Al, that's no sign you've got a clean record. Even this new setup you've got here, is this strictly on the level?
Well, I wouldn't want you to marry a guy like me.
That's where you're wrong, Al. You're just the kind of a guy I'd want to marry. Oh, you've got to let me do it. You can't go on running my life forever. Marty won't let you.
Oh, no?
Well, would you? If you were in his shoes? Don't be mad at me, Al. At least think it over, will you?
Okay, honey, I'll think it over.
I'll see you at the house tonight. Yes, Mr. Baldwin.
Did you know that man that was in here yesterday, that Mr. Collins?
Yes, sir.
Well, get him on the phone for me. You can reach him at the Internal Revenue Office.
Collins. Yes, Mr. Baldwin. Got any news for me?
Well, no, I wouldn't go so far as to say that, Mr. Collins. But since you were in here, I've been doing a little checking up on Martin Pollard myself.
Yes, go on.
Well, for one thing, I found out about that trip he made, the one you were asking about. Yes, he went to Fort Worth. And from what I've heard, he went there to pick up a very valuable piece of property.
All right, Mr. Baldwin, I'll be right over. And he never gave you any indication as to where he was going or why he was making the trip?
None whatsoever. As a matter of fact, he called me here at the office and said he was sick. Some kind of a virus bug. Said the doctor wanted him to stay home for a couple of days.
I see. How'd you find out he actually went to Fort Worth?
A friend of mine saw him at the airport, saw him get off the plane.
And you say he purchased a piece of property in which you yourself were interested at one time?
Well, he knew all about it. I sent him up there once to look the place over.
But if this property were worth $50,000 or $60,000, would you have any idea where to get the money to pay for it?
That's why I called you. If he's got that kind of money hidden away someplace, maybe he has been doing something wrong. Maybe he's got a source of income I know nothing about. That's for you to find out. All I know is he went to Fort Worth.
Mr. Baldwin, do you mind if I ask you a very personal question?
No, go ahead.
Did it ever occur to you that if Mr. Pollard has another source of income, he might be getting it directly from this company?
What do you mean?
Well, he's your chief accountant and assistant treasurer. If Mr. Pollard were so inclined, he might be in a position to embezzle company funds.
Well, yeah, that's a possibility, but after all, I am president and treasurer. I don't know if he could pull anything like that.
Mr. Baldwin, do you mind if I have a look at your books?
Well, I don't know why you'd want to bother with the books. They've been audited every 3 months.
Oh, I wouldn't want to just audit them.
Well, why go to all that trouble?
You have no objection, have you, to my examining your books?
No, none at all.
Thank you.
For the next 4 days, Agent Collins made a detailed study of the corporate structure and operational procedures of the Baldwin Enterprises, with particular reference to Martin Pollard's opportunities for embezzling company funds. Upon checking random items of expense with the actual receivers of the money, Collins was able to discover several minor irregularities and one major one. Over the past 4 years, considerable sums of the company's money had been spent on what appeared on the company's books as traveling expenses. The cost of airplane tickets alone amounted to almost $15,000 a year. And although receipted bills confirmed this expenditure, Collins checked with the airplane companies themselves and learned that over half of this money was refunded to Baldwin's company.
Well, I had no idea these refunds weren't being entered in the books. Martin Pollard handled all those transactions. I never saw a cent of that money.
And you think he kept them for himself?
Well, it's obvious, isn't it? If he didn't give it to me and it isn't entered on the books, he must have kept it.
All right, Mr. Baldwin, I won't take up any more of your time. But if what we've been discussing here is true, this can have very serious consequences for Mr. Pollard.
Well, they can't be too serious for me. I trusted that guy. I gave him the biggest break of his life, and what happens? He pulls a stunt like this. It isn't only the money I'm thinking about, it's my sister. She's engaged to be married to him.
It's a lie, I tell you, a dirty, rotten lie. I cashed those refund checks and turned the money over to him. He's the one who covered it up, not me. All I get from him is $150 a week.
Then how is it you were able to go to Fort Worth and buy a property worth $50,000 or $60,000?
What are you talking about? I didn't buy that garage.
The title's in your name, your company.
But the rights are assigned to him. That's just a dummy sale. He made me buy it in my name. He's the one who really owns it.
You have a written agreement to that effect?
Well, no. I just signed the rights over to him. It's the truth, I tell you. Look, I'm the guy that does all this dirty work so he can look big and keep his shirts clean. Now he's trying to put the blame on me.
Mr. Pollard, is it true that you once spent time in a Maryland penitentiary for stealing funds from a carnival?
Now, wait a minute.
Mr. Pollard, I just asked you a simple question.
It's not a simple question. I know I haven't been an angel all my life. I know I did time. But I paid for it, and plenty. Paid for it after I got out, too. You should have seen the trouble I had trying to get a job. That's why I had to work for guys like Baldwin, guys who didn't mind having an ex-con around to do all the rough stuff. And deals that needed a little fixing.
Mr. Pollard.
You gotta give me a chance. Don't you see what he's trying to do? He's trying to frame me to take the rap for him.
Why would he want to do that?
You don't know this guy. He'd do anything to keep me from marrying his sister. Lie, cheat, send me to jail, anything. A little while ago, I thought he was a great guy because he gave me a break when I needed it. Now I know what he's really like. Now I know what a double-crosser he is. You gotta believe me, Mr. Collins.
What I believe isn't always important, Mr. Pollard. In the end, it's the facts that count.
But why, Al? Why would he steal from you? Well, even if he thought he could get away with it, why would he take a chance like that?
Because that's the kind of a guy he is. That's the way all guys are when they come up from the jungle. Steal, double-cross, get what you want no matter who you have to step on to get it. When you grow up with that inside you, you can't change. That's why I don't want you to marry him.
But you grew up that way, Al. Didn't you change?
Look, honey, if I told you everything about me, you wouldn't think I was so good either.
What's the idea, Al? What's the idea of telling that Treasury guy all that stuff?
I didn't tell him anything. He just found out.
Found out what? You know I didn't take that refund money. I gave it to you, you dirty double-crosser.
Look, Marty, we'll talk about this some other time when Jerry isn't here.
She's gonna know about it, too. She's gonna know you're trying to frame me to break us up.
Take your hands off me, Marty.
Tell her. Tell her the truth about that dough. Tell her how you sent me down to Fort Worth to buy that garage from Greaza. Go ahead, tell her.
I don't know what you're talking about. I never even knew you went to Fort Worth.
That's so.
Marty!
Get up, you double-crosser. Get up and tell her the truth.
Marty, stop it!
You gotta know the truth, honey. You gotta know what I am, whether they send me to jail or not. Now, come on. Tell her why I bought the garage. Tell her who gave me the money.
He's no good, kid. He's showing you that right now. He's just looking for an alibi.
Don't believe him, Jerry. He may take his word against mine in a court, but you've got to believe me. You got to know that I've been on the level with you. Put that down now.
I can be rough, too, Marty. You forget who I am.
Al, please, you don't know what you're doing.
Don't I? I know one way of making sure he don't ever come near you again.
Al, no.
Get out of my way, Jerry.
I won't let you.
Yes? Who is it?
Agent Collins, Internal Revenue Service. May I come in? Oh, I'm sorry.
You better have this man placed under arrest, Mr. Collins. He just tried to threaten me into giving him an alibi.
I tried to make him tell the truth about the garage.
That won't be necessary, Mr. Pollard. Somebody's already told the truth. An old friend of yours, Mr. Baldwin. Mr. Greaza.
Greaza?
Yes, he was questioned in Chicago. Told our agents the whole story about the garage and how you made the arrangements. Mr. Baldwin, I think you better come with me and answer a few questions about your books and yourself.
What for? I never had anything to do with Greaza or the garage either. Martin Pollard bought that on his own.
Mr. Baldwin, I must warn you that anything you say now can be held against you. Shall we go?
Marty, what'll they do? What'll they do to him?
I don't know. I guess whatever he wanted them to do to me.
Upon further investigation, it was learned that Alfred Baldwin not only pocketed cash refunds to his company, but had devised a system of padding his employee payrolls in order to deprive the government of taxes on earnings he had received himself but never reported. As a result of our investigations, Baldwin was eventually tried and convicted on 6 counts, for which he received a sentence of 2.5 years. Almost $150,000 in back taxes and penalties was recovered by this department. And an additional penalty was also recovered from Thomas Greaza. No charges were brought against Martin Pollard. And so ends a case in which a gentlemanly cheat was brought to justice by one